Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. The other day, President Trump pardoned Larry Hoover, chairman. I don't know if he's currently the chairman or former leader or whatever the case may be. I don't know what the status is on that, but he founded the Gangster Disciples, one of the most violent gangs in American history. This is not my description of it. This is the description that you would read if you logged on to any site or read anything about the Gangster Disciples. Members of the organization in all states, if I'm correct. And responsible for all kinds of organized criminal activities, right? Responsible for all kinds of deaths, responsible for all kinds of drug trafficking, responsible for a whole host of things. And the other day, one of the people that, that I value, one of my subscribers, and I love all of y'all, sent a comment to me that was read to me about how did I feel about the chairman getting a commutation from President Trump. And I responded and I asked it to be posted that I was happy for him. I was happy for him. But I want to put that into context so that you fully understand what it is that I'm saying when I say that I'm happy for him. To my recollection, he's been locked up 30, 40, 50 years now. And I don't know what his health situation is. I don't know what his mindset is. I don't know the details of why he was able to get this clemency from the president. So without knowing that, I can't really give you a fully informed opinion about how I feel about him being granted this enormous opportunity. But what I will say is this. I want to share with you the reaction that a lot of people in here had about that. A lot of the guys, I didn't know about it. I got up that morning, the next morning, and it already happened. And I didn't know. I came outside the cell and I went downstairs and it was some of the guys, they were gathered around, and every morning, they'll be in this one particular spot and they'll all be talking. And so I go over, to pay my respects, and I speak, and everybody, they still speak to me and tell me all, what's up, old man, all these other types of things, right? And everybody was abuzz, and I'm like, what's going on? So one of the guys, he said to me, he said, Joe T, you didn't hear nothing about Larry getting the pardon? I said, Larry got a pardon? I said, okay. I said, you sure? He was like, yeah. I said, I didn't see that on the news this morning. And he said, I seen it. I said, okay. He was misinformed. It wasn't a pardon, it was a clemency, but that's what he said. I want to be accurate with telling you what was said in the conversation. And he said, they're going to get him out. He coming all the way up out of there. And I said, bro, with all due respect, I said, the president only deals with federal issues. He can't tell a governor what to do, this, that, and the third. He said, he going to get him out, he going to get him out. So I ended up in a back and forth with him, not intending to, but I ended up in a back and forth with him talking about what it was that could have happened and going to happen and all of this and that, right? And I'm looking at him, and it's like he's acting as if this opportunity had been extended to him. And then I heard one of the other guys say, it's going to change everything. It's going to change. They're going to have to start letting some of us out. And I went outside like I always do, and I walk laps every morning, and I reflect on what my day is going to be like and the things that I want to do. And I got to thinking about what was being said inside of the pod and how everybody was commenting about the changes that were coming and all of these different types of things. And it was almost like they had been affirmed in their belief that if you participate in that lifestyle and you just hold it down and do your time, one day somebody will say it was okay what you did. That it was okay that you committed all of these horrendous acts and harmed so many people and decimated so many communities that it's okay to do that because somebody's going to come along and they're going to tell you that it's okay. And then I found myself in a conversation with a brother that I talk to every morning while we're walking, and he was coming out and he told me, he said the same thing everybody else said. He said, did you see the news? And I said, no, I heard about it. The guys were in there talking about it, right? And I said, but did you see it on the news? He's like, yeah, I saw it on Fox News. I said, oh, okay. So what did they say? And he ran it down to me. He basically told me that it was a commutation, not a clemency, but not a pardon, but he would be turned over to the state facility where he had 200 plus years to do. And I was like, wow, okay. Which I knew he had some time. I didn't know it was that much. So I started speculating about how old he would be. You know, and if he's not in his mid to late 70s, he's pushing 80. He's got to be. And I said, did they show a picture of him? I don't know what made me ask him that, but I asked him, I said, did they show a picture of him? He was like, yeah. He was like, Joe T, he said he looked like he's worn down. He's looking like he's worn down. So throughout the whole day, you know, I go to work later on that day and I'm down at work and I'm running into a lot of the gang members, Crips, Bloods, Vice Lords, all this and that, and they're all saying the same thing. Trump gonna let all us out. And all I kept thinking was, do you deserve to be out? Should you be allowed to get out if your mindset hadn't changed? If you still own what you own when it comes to brutalizing people, taking from people, this gang lifestyle, should you be allowed to get out? And then one of the guys that was talking to me, we were walking in the gym, and he said, man, you know, Larry gonna do all of these things and gonna get the guys to act right and this and that and the third. And I'm like, bro, let me ask you a question. Do you know if Larry's still involved with the business? And he said, nah, he ain't been involved with the business in years, as far as he knew. And now it's really no way for him to know that. And I'm gonna say that because it is. Most people that's a part of the organization or been a part of the organization ain't never met the man. Don't know what he looks like except from a picture. Don't know what he really, really believes other than what we've read in the paperwork. So he made this assumption that he hadn't been involved. Whether he has or hadn't, it dawned on me. I want to know, does he believe that the organization that he led for so many years, does he believe that it was a mistake? Does he believe that the things that were done in his name were right? How does he feel about that today? How does he feel about the young kids that were going to school that got shot? You know what I'm saying? All the years that this was going back and forth. How does he feel about the people that are murdered in his name? How does he feel about the drugs that were sold in his name? How does he feel about misleading generations and generations and generations of black and brown and white men? How does he feel about that? Y'all know it's no secret how I feel about the business now. Don't get me wrong. Some of the people that I met throughout my time in the organization, I call my friend. I do. I really do. And I mean that. But I stand strong when I denounce the life, because I know what it is. I know what it is. So later that day, I was involved. Well, I didn't talk. I was sitting around and I heard other people talking about it. And I noticed the looks on some of the people's faces. Some of them were gang members, some of them were peons. And I noticed the look on some of them faces as, you know, some of the gangsters were getting more and more vocal about how they felt about Larry getting this clemency from the president, right? And I noticed one of them, he acted like he wanted to say something. He was a peon, y'all. He acted like he wanted to say something, but he wouldn't say it. And then it dawned on me again, y'all. People are already afraid to say what's on their minds about this situation. And then I ended up in a conversation with my son. And I asked my son, you know, how he felt about it. And he pretty much agrees with me on that. But he was like, Dad, he said, man, I don't really want to even get into that, right? And my son ain't scared of nothing. I know he ain't. And I'm not either. But this is not about fear. Because he read something to me that was online. I don't know where he read it from, whether it was Twitter, Instagram, I don't know. But a lot of people were saying that he could be a leader in the community. And that's where I really got vocal in my conversation with him. And I want to ask y'all this question. Should somebody, look here, don't get it twisted. This system overcharges people. This system over-sentences people. This system holds people in prison way beyond their years of being able to be any threat to society whatsoever. Look at the Menendez brothers out in California. They're going to be resentenced and eligible for parole and eligible for release. That should be available to everybody, state and federal. It should require a clemency. It should be available for everybody. But it's not. People get to make these decisions based on political issues and all this and that, and most of us get left out. What about us? So now you get to the issue of, should somebody like that get out of prison and be labeled a leader? And I'll say it depends. And I know you'll say, well, Joe T, what does it depend on? And I say it should depend on if that person believes in what they did back then or not. Do they continue to support that or not? Because if they continue to support that ideology, that concept that says it's okay to brutalize people in their communities, if they really still believe in that, then I say no, they should not be a leader. They should not be able to wear that hat. It doesn't matter who it is. We have to get to a point in our culture. Listen to me, y'all. We have to get to a point in our culture where we understand that we can't just go for anything, man. We can't just keep accepting anything because somebody decides that it's okay. Think for yourself. Man, yeah, let the man go if that's what you want to do. If that's what you want to do, let him go. But do you want him to lead your family? Do you want him to lead your kids? Do you want somebody like me to lead your kids? The question should be, what do you believe? What do you believe in? What do you believe in? I want to know. Listen to me. I did everything that the paperwork said. I lived my life from that. But I'm going to tell you something. I learned from this brother that told me one day when I was, when a lot of people that might not understand, Gangsta Disciples got flipped from Gangsta Disciple to Growth and Development, right? Where, it became a political body, right? More than anything, right? And the chairman wanted everybody to, encourage our family members to register to vote and to get involved in the system and go to school, make sure we got our GEDs and high school diplomas and go to college and all. He was advocating all of that, and all of that was good, right? But it was secular. It was political. And all of these different types of things, right? Now listen to me when I say this. Because of organization that anybody moves over and transitions over into that realm where they're getting into the political thing, that don't mean that they're morally right about what they're doing. Because this brother told me, he said, Joe T, you pushing too much. You making us go to school. You making us do this. We don't have to do all that. This is just a front. I said, no, it's not. Why would he say that? This is not a front. He means this. We need to be going to school. I had a brother that outranked me tell me this. He said, this is not what we're supposed to be doing. This is just what he wants everybody to think. And I was like, no, I do not believe that. But stipulate that that was not true. Stipulate that everything about it was right. Stipulate everything about it was right. That he wanted us to do all of this and we were doing it. Bodies were still being laid in the streets. Drugs were still being sold. So tell me which one is true. Tell me which one is true. Should he be held accountable for what everybody else did? If he said don't do it? I don't think so. You make your own choices. You make your own choices if you want to do something like that. Why should he be held accountable for that? Because he started it. So, do I see Larry as a leader? What I would say, he has the potential to be. But I need to hear him say what we all know to be true. I need to hear him say that. I need to hear him say that the lifestyle is not right. I need to hear him say that he made a bad decision. I need him to own up and take responsibility for what he did to the black and brown community, y'all. The same way you hold me accountable, hold any and everybody accountable, gang leader or not. This is about repairing what we've done to our neighborhoods, our communities, our families, our friends. This is about repairing. This is about rebuilding. This is about taking and having yourself be held accountable. This is not about the cultural things that are going on. See, part of our culture wants us to accept that this is okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, part of our culture wants us to accept this. I say don't. Why should you accept it? Why should you accept that it's okay to hurt people? Talk to me, y'all. You shouldn't. Why would you? So when I get asked how do I feel about Larry being released, I'm happy for anybody that has an opportunity if they've changed their ways. Would you ask me that same question about Ted Bundy? Huh? If Ted Bundy were released, or they killed him. Y'all know the notorious serial killer that raped and killed these women, innocent women. If he were alive and the situation was similar, and he was somehow or another granted some kind of relief, would you ask me the same question and expect me not to give you an honest answer? No, I'm going to tell you how I really feel. If Ted Bundy provably had changed, publicly had come out, publicly had owned it, publicly had held himself accountable for all the things that he had done, I would say something different. But I'm not going to sit here and say because he's the chairman, because it's Larry. I'm not going to say to you something different than I've been saying the whole time that y'all have been blessing me by listening to my show. I'm not going to do that. If I did that, how and why should I expect you to trust me? I shouldn't. How could I? How could I? If Larry denounces the lifestyle, if Larry speaks out and holds himself accountable for the decisions that he made, unequivocally, I mean unequivocally, then yeah, the organization needs to be torn down. I didn't say tear the people down, y'all. I said the organization. You can't build upon that foundation because that foundation is wicked. And I know a lot of y'all are going to disagree with me on that, and I want to hear from you. But if you sit down and you really think about what we're talking about, what we're saying, you might want to say the same thing. You just might be afraid to say it. And I want you to ask yourself this one question. Why are you afraid to say it? Why are you afraid to say it? You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. If you're afraid to say what's real on your mind, then you need to be questioning what it is that you support. If you don't want to say it because of the people involved, question what you support. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.